Joe Guerra, are there really even any NCAA rules whatsoever anymore in this day?
I mean, yeah, there's the one caveat to the transfer rule. You got to have a certain GPA or whatever.
Scholarship limits.
Yeah, there's 85. For now, that's probably going away next. There's already a lot of scuttlebutt about that. I don't know that it's going to happen in the immediate future, but that's one rule that I would have my eye on is scholarship limits. And potentially the SEC, Big Ten in particular, if they were to break away under their own structure, just do away with that. And, basically that would be a killer for all the schools not involved because, again, going back to, let's say, Rutgers, for example, well, yeah, at some point, like, what is $15 million compared to $10 million if you're going after a quarterback in Texas or something like that? But if all of a sudden there's no limit on players you can sign, either you don't think Alabama or Georgia or Auburn or Oklahoma or Texas or whoever is not going to sign 100 of the best players they possibly can. I mean, we see Tech with their NIL. They're trying to do it in so many ways or trying to kind of take advantage of the scholarship limits in the NIL era as best they can. So to tell me that that's not on somebody's mind right now, let's strip the scholarship limit. That'll strip down the Baylors of the world, those who are not involved, because we'll be able to poach a few more guys every year just under the scholarship. The fact that there's no limitations on it. So yeah, that 95th guy who gets a scholarship might not have a real shot, and he might just be kind of playing keep away with that guy. But ultimately that guy will probably end up in the transfer portal, and then we just have that whole to do and wind his way through the system. But I do think scholarship limitations are probably one of the next few things that we just see go to the wayside. But to answer your question, 85 scholarships, certain GPA to stay eligible, which we know is garbage and means nothing. Because let's just face it, every time I've even brought up academics, everybody's just spit on that and pretended like that's the most laughable thing. And I think that's the saddest part is how many people in the industry and involved with the industry and who pretend to have the best interests of the industry in mind, just completely, it's one thing to be for all the changes, and I am for all of the money, getting into the hands of athletes, but to just completely just defecate on the academic side of this, like it doesn't matter at all in any way, shape, or form, when the majority of these athletes do benefit in some roundabout way from the academic side of this or the educational side of it. I think it's just a real disservice to the young men and women to just pretend like that's not even an important factor anymore. And maybe some of that was just overblown to begin with. I mean, calling them student athletes and all that kind of stuff, but I don't know. I think we kind of lost our way a little bit in just acting like that always was just a figment of our imagination and meant absolutely nothing, because for the majority of athletes, that meant almost everything.
Yeah. And to your point, I think part of the reason we're about to see the limits lifted on equivalency sports is so that when football can say, because if you just did football first and said, no limits on football, if you were a baseball or softball coach, you'd be like, look, I get that we don't make enough money, but seriously, you got to help us out.
But those sports have, and with all due respect to some are big, really great programs, they have no voice.
No, but there would be a backlash enough to where you'd have to do it, but it also allows your boosters to start spending more money in more places and all that if you do that. So if you can do those, I think that's why that happens, is almost a PR move before anything else, a Title IX move too.
No, that's where I wonder if that's the next outcry that might be that might at least throw a little bit of gum in the wheel.
Because if you were volleyball, softball, any women's sport, and football just going to go unlimited scholarships, you'd be like, hold on a minute, we're still dealing with 11.2 here. No, that's ridiculous. So in order to balance out Title IX, you go ahead and do the equivalency sports all across the board beforehand and then pull down the football one.
A year ago, back in the spring of 2021, of course, a lot of things changed when it came to the transfer portal. And, my thing is, imagine if, in fact, the college football playoff expansion did occur. How much of this would be going on? The NIL would still be going on. The transfer portal would be still going on. USC and UCLA might still go to the Big Ten. But you know what? The college football playoff, for all the warts that it might have or whatever, was going to allow a group of 5 team to have a chance. Well, a group of 5 team was going to be a part of the playoff. They were going to be one of 8 or 12, right? Or 12. They were going to be able to be involved and have hope. And now you wonder if that ever gets done at all. And when they do it in 4 years or whatever, if the rules will include what it was going to include last spring.
A group of 5 made it last year in the 14 playoffs.
Yeah, I know, but I'm talking about every year going forward.
No, yeah, I mean, they're basically not going to have even the door cracked open. I mean, the door's basically only cracked open. It's not left wide open for schools like Cincinnati or whoever else you want to throw into that mix. It's outside the Power Five, which doesn't even really exist at this point. I mean, barely. But yeah, I mean, that hint or that hope, that glimmer on the other side of the door that you see, that you feel like you can kick open every once in a while. Yeah, that bad boy's going to be dead bolted and locked up, and there's some programs in the current trajectory they're going to have absolutely no hope. So what little they had and what kind of keeps them going and putting on the pads every year and feeling like, hey, this is the year that we might do something special. I think there will still be elements of that, but this dream of K-State one day being able to get to a national title game and crown themselves that's going to that's going the opposite direction of increasing. That's decreasing with, I think, every passing legislation and decision made by those who are swimming in ponds of cash like Scrooge McDuck. So some people don't seem to care. Say screw K-State or Baylor or TCU or whoever, Washington State. They never had a chance anyway. Screw those guys. I mean, I'll put that plenty of those schools that I just mentioned have knocked on the door, and they were only not allowed in because the door was they were at capacity. There's only 4 teams that are allowed in this room, and that was the only thing preventing them. But now, like, they might not even be, sitting there with a clue as to where the door is or what even direction to go to find the door. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
that's what's kind of, I think, a hard thing for people to deal with that aren't Alabama fan or Georgia fan who've got everything's fine, everything's good. Like, their big worry is just, oh my gosh, how much more millions is Saban going to spend compared to Kirby Smart? Like, that's their big concern, is tedious little stuff like that. But overall, their house and everything around it is fine. For a lot of others, I mean, yeah, they do feel like the water levels are rising and they're sitting there on the beach and it's about to get really hairy and they don't quite know where to go. You know what I mean? So that's the scary part. And, I guess we're unique in that we can have a little bit of a heart for those smaller schools and understand the standpoint of the big schools. But there are those out there that doesn't matter. You don't make us money. You're not going to bring us enough value. Screw y'all. It's all about the big boys. And I wonder if that's exactly where we're headed. It sure appears that way.
I think Georgia and Alabama are worried about who's going to be better, but I do understand what you're saying because they're worried about making sure that how many teams they have to beat and then who they have to beat, and are they automatically basically going to always have, not a pass, they got to earn it, into the playoffs that they're going to be a part of it, but they're going to be that all the time. They're always going to be a part of that. There are some teams that don't care about those who are going to be left behind. And that's kind of almost business in America in some ways as well.
No, this is very much America right in front of us. What's happening? This is America. This is like the real America. The old college football, that was the fake America that we all pretended was like just so great and heavenly. And obviously there were issues with it. And it wasn't perfect by any means, and the bubble got burst a little bit. But no, this is capitalism at its best, and this is the real college football in America that we're seeing unfold.
This is cronyism at its best,
yeah.
And it is getting out of hand. Where if it was capitalism at its best, we wouldn't really be having this conversation because the other schools would have an opportunity to compete in the market. This is two groups getting together to eliminate competition and monopolize.
Well, that's the question: are they going to have that opportunity? And that's right now what we're trying to figure out if they are or not. And it's looking for some like they might not, but we don't know that for sure. That's the big question that we all keep coming back to.
Some of you are asking, like, for example, Craig, why are you so angry? Life is good.
I'm not angry.
No, you're not at all. I know you. You're not. A Yak Attack was about why are you getting negative? He's telling the truth. He's being honest. About where we are and where we're headed. There's nothing wrong. It might be negative because it's probably going to happen, or at least it appears that way. When we come back, Max Olson, the Athletic